Tom Walker was just another face in the crowd at Empire Studios. At 26, he dreamed of becoming a filmmaker, while working as a production assistant to pay the bills. His mum, back in their small village of Millfield, had sacrificed everything so he could study film, working double shifts at the local bakery despite her health problems. Tom lived in a tiny flat on the outskirts of London, sending half his paycheck home every month. The morning air was crisp as Tom hurried into the massive studio building, balancing a tray of coffees. His worn shoes squeaked against the polished floor as he rushed past posters of famous films he hoped to make someday. He had been working at Empire Studios for nearly 8 months now, mostly doing errands that nobody else wanted to do. Walker. "Those coffees were due 10 minutes ago," shouted Bill, the floor manager. His face was red with anger as he snatched the tray from Tom's hands. "Sorry, sir. The line was very long at the shop," Tom explained, trying to catch his breath. Bill rolled his eyes. "Excuses won't get you anywhere in this business. Now go help set up Studio 3. They're filming the interview segment in an hour." Tom nodded and hurried away, checking his phone quickly. A message from his landlord reminded him that rent was 3 days late. He sighed and tucked the phone away. Another problem for another time. In Studio 3, the crew was busy setting up lights and cameras. The famous comedian Robert James was coming today to film a special for his new tour. Everyone was talking about it. Robert James was not just any comedian, he was the biggest name in British comedy right now. "Did you hear Robert James is bringing his own team?" whispered Andy, another production assistant who was friendly with Tom. "Really, that's unusual, isn't it?" Tom asked as they moved chairs into position. "Yeah, but apparently the regular assistant called in sick this morning. Someone's going to have to fill in." Just then their supervisor walked in, scanning the room with sharp eyes. Her gaze landed on Tom. "Walker, you're covering for Lucy today. Don't mess this up." Tom's heart jumped to his throat. This was both exciting and terrifying. Working directly with Robert James could be his big break, or his biggest disaster. Me. "But I've never—" "Everyone starts somewhere," she cut him off. "Just do what he asks and stay out of the way otherwise." From across the room, Peter, who had been working at the studio for years, looked at Tom with narrowed eyes. Peter had always made it clear he thought Tom didn't belong here. "Don't get too comfortable around the celebrity," Peter said with a smirk as he passed by. "Remember your place." The rest of the day was a blur of activity. Tom ran errands, fetched water, adjusted lighting, and took notes, all while trying to keep up with his regular duties. By late afternoon, his feet were aching and his stomach growling. He hadn't had time to eat lunch. Robert James, however, was surprisingly kind. When Tom brought him a bottle of water, the comedian actually thanked him by name, having somehow remembered it from their brief introduction hours earlier. "So you look dead on your feet, Tom," Robert commented during a break. "Been a long day?" "Just busy, sir," Tom replied, surprised by the attention. "Been working here long?" 8 months, sir." Robert nodded. "Tough business. Stick with it if it's what you love." That short conversation made Tom's entire day worthwhile. Someone like Robert James had actually spoken to him like a person, not just another face in the crowd. When filming finally wrapped for the day, Tom was exhausted but happy. He had done a good job. Even the supervisor had nodded with approval. Back in his tiny flat that night, Tom heated up some canned soup and called his mum. Her voice sounded weaker than last week, but she perked up when he told her about meeting Robert James. "I'm getting closer to my dream, Mum. One step at a time," he said, not mentioning how tired he was or that his rent was due. "I believe in you, love," she replied, her voice weak but determined. "You've always had a good heart." After they hung up, Tom opened his worn notebook filled with film ideas. He added a new character inspired by Robert James, a famous person who was kind to those nobody noticed. His eyes grew heavy as he wrote, and soon he fell asleep with the notebook on his chest, dreaming of cameras and lights and stories yet to be told. Tomorrow would be another day, another chance to move closer to the life he had always imagined. The following morning buzzed with activity as Robert James rehearsed his routine. Tom rushed around, fetching water, adjusting lighting, and taking notes, all while handling his regular duties. Tom arrived at the studio an hour earlier than usual, determined to prove himself after yesterday's opportunity. The hallways were already bustling with crew members preparing for the day's shoot. Tom's supervisor handed him a thick schedule. "Robert wants to run through his entire set today," she said. "Make sure he has everything he needs and don't forget your regular duties." Tom nodded, already feeling the weight of the double workload. He hurried to the green room where Robert was reviewing his script. "Morning, Tom," Robert said with a smile. "Any chance of getting some honey lemon tea? Throat's a bit scratchy today." "Right away, Mr. James," Tom replied, adding it to his mental list. The morning flew by in a blur of activity. Tom ran between tasks, barely stopping to catch his breath. By noon his shirt was sticking to his back with sweat, but he felt a strange satisfaction. For once, he was in the middle of things, not just watching from the sidelines. "Walker!" Bill shouted from across the studio. "Where are those lighting notes? We need them now." Tom rushed to deliver the notes, then hurried back to help Robert prepare for the rehearsal. The famous comedian seemed tense, pacing back and forth behind the stage. "Everything all right, Mr. James?" Tom asked, offering a fresh bottle of water. "Just the usual nerves," Robert said, taking a deep breath. "Been doing this 20 years and still get butterflies." Tom found this confession oddly comforting. Even the greats got nervous. The director called everyone to their positions. Robert took the stage, microphone in hand, and began his routine. The crew laughed at all the right moments, and Tom could see why Robert was so popular. His timing was perfect. About halfway through the rehearsal, something changed. Robert suddenly stopped mid-joke. His face, normally animated and expressive, turned pale. He stumbled slightly, clutching the microphone stand for support. I just need a moment," he mumbled, but his words were slurred. The director yelled, "Cut!" while everyone froze, unsure what was happening. "Someone call an ambulance," shouted the producer, rushing toward the stage. Tom watched Robert's symptoms with growing alarm. The shaking hands, the confusion, the sudden weakness. He had seen these signs before. His mum had diabetes, and these were the symptoms of low blood sugar. Without hesitation, he sprinted to his backpack in the corner of the studio, frantically digging through it until he found what he was looking for. The emergency glucose tablets he always carried because of his mum's condition. Tom rushed back to the stage where Robert was now sitting, surrounded by concerned staff members. People were talking loudly, some on phones calling for help. "Mr. James," Tom said quietly, pushing through the crowd and offering the tablets. "My mum has diabetes. These might help until the medics arrive." Robert looked up at Tom with grateful eyes and nodded, taking the tablets with trembling hands. Tom helped him put one in his mouth. "Just let it dissolve," Tom instructed gently. The room fell silent as everyone watched. Within minutes, color began to return to Robert's face. His breathing steadied and the confusion in his eyes cleared. "Thank you, lad," Robert whispered as the paramedics finally arrived, pushing through the studio doors with their equipment. The director patted Tom's shoulder. "Quick thinking, Walker, well done." But across the room, Tom noticed Peter, the head production assistant, staring at him with cold eyes. Peter's mouth was set in a tight line as he whispered something to the supervisor, who frowned and looked at Tom with concern. The rest of the day passed in a daze. The medics checked Robert thoroughly and advised him to rest, but the comedian insisted on finishing the rehearsal. He seemed fine now, even joking about the incident. Before leaving, he sought out Tom. "You saved me from a nasty spell there," Robert said. "I forgot my medication this morning. Stupid mistake. I won't forget what you did." Tom blushed. "Anyone would have done the same." "But they didn't," Robert replied. "You did." Tom floated home that evening, feeling for the first time that he had made a real difference. He called his mum and told her about the incident, and she expressed her pride in him. The next morning, Tom arrived at work with a spring in his step, but instead of going to Studio 3, he was directed to the production office. The supervisor sat behind her desk, face stern. Peter stood in the corner, arms crossed. "Walker, you're fired," the supervisor said coldly. "Peter reported you for unauthorized interaction with talent and violating protocol." Tom stood speechless, his dreams crumbling before him. "But I was just—" "You directly approached and gave medication to our star without authorization," the supervisor continued. That's a liability we cannot afford. Clean out your locker and return your ID badge." As Tom walked out of the office in shock, Peter smirked. "Told you to remember your place," he whispered as Tom passed. Outside, Tom sat on a bench, staring at his empty hands. Yesterday he had been a hero, today he was unemployed, and with no job, how would he pay his rent? How would he send money to his mum? How would he ever become a filmmaker now? 2 weeks later, Tom sat in his car, now his home, parked behind a grocery store. The winter chill seeped through the windows as he counted his remaining pounds. Not enough for rent, but perhaps enough to send something to his mum. The cold December air made Tom's fingers stiff as he counted the coins and crumpled notes spread on the passenger seat. £43.17. His last paycheck had mostly gone to his mum for her medicine, with barely enough left to fill his car with petrol. He had given up his flat last week when he realized he could not pay another month's rent. The car windows were foggy from his breath. Tom wiped a clear spot with his sleeve and looked out at the empty parking lot behind Tesco. He had found this spot 3 days ago, far enough from the store entrance that nobody bothered him, but close enough to the back door that he could use the staff bathroom when a kind night worker named Mary was on shift. His stomach growled. He had eaten nothing but a single sandwich today, saving the rest of his food for tomorrow. His phone showed 15% battery. He would need to find somewhere to charge it soon. The phone was his lifeline to job applications and his mum. Tom opened the Notes app and began typing out job application numbers. 27 so far, with not even a single interview. He had tried other studios, shops, restaurants, delivery services, anywhere that might take him, but December was a hard time to find work, with so many places already fully staffed for the holiday rush. As darkness fell, the temperature dropped further. Tom put on his extra jumper and wrapped himself in the blanket he had taken from his old flat. He turned on his phone's recording app, a habit he had developed to keep himself company in the lonely nights. "Dear Diary," he spoke into the phone. "Today marks 2 weeks of living in my car. I had to cancel my flat lease. I don't regret helping Mr. James, though. Mum always taught me to do the right thing, even when it's hard." He paused, looking at the photo of his mum that he kept on his dashboard. In it, she was standing outside their small cottage in Millfield, smiling despite the pain she must have been feeling from her illness. "I told Mum, I'm staying with a friend," Tom continued, his voice cracking. "I couldn't bear to worry her. She has enough to deal with already. I sent her £30 yesterday, told her it was a bonus from work." He laughed bitterly, as if I still had work to give bonuses. A tear slid down his cheek, and he quickly wiped it away, even though no one was there to see. "I'm not giving up on my dreams yet, but tonight it's particularly difficult to see the path forward. I've applied to 27 jobs now. Nothing. Not even a rejection. Just silence. My old film school friends don't return my calls anymore. I guess nobody wants to be friends with someone who smells like he lives in his car." Tom stopped the recording and put down his phone to save battery. He leaned back against the headrest and closed his eyes, trying to ignore the rumbling in his stomach and the cold seeping into his bones. A sharp tap on the window startled him awake. Tom's heart raced. Was it police? Security? He had been chased away from 3 different parking spots this week already. But when he rolled down the window a crack, he saw an older man in a security uniform, his weathered face kind under the Tadim parking lot lights. Instead of telling Tom to move on, the man held out a steaming cup. "Tea," the security guard said simply. "Milk, 2 sugars. Thought you might need it." Tom hesitated, surprised by the unexpected kindness. "Go on, lad," the guard encouraged. "It's fresh from the staff room. I'm not supposed to be offering it to non-staff, but rules are made to be bent sometimes." "Thank you," Tom said, taking the cup carefully. The warmth spread through his cold fingers immediately. "Name's Jack," the guard said, leaning against the car door. "Been watching you park here the last few days. Figured you might be having a rough patch." Tom nodded, taking a sip of the sweet, hot tea. It was the best thing he had tasted in days. "Been there myself," Jack continued. "Back in '08, lost my job at the factory. Spent 3 months living in my old van with my dog. Hardest winter of my life." "How did you get out of it?" Tom asked, hungry for hope. Jack smiled. One day at a time. Found odd jobs. Made friends who helped. Eventually landed this security gig. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills. He looked at Tom carefully. What's your story, if you don't mind me asking? Tom surprised himself by telling Jack everything. The job at Empire Studios, helping Robert James, being fired by Peter's scheming. Jack whistled low. That's rough, mate. Life can be cruel sometimes. But you did the right thing, helping that bloke when he needed it. That counts for something. Not much when you're sleeping in your car, Tom said bitterly. Maybe not today, Jack agreed. But good things come around eventually. Just got to hold on till they do. He checked his watch. I've got to finish my rounds, but I'll be back in a bit. Store throws out sandwiches after closing. Still good, just can't sell them tomorrow. I usually grab some for my lunch. I'll bring you a few if you want. Tom wanted to refuse out of pride, but hunger won out. That would be amazing, thank you. After Jack left, Tom picked up his phone again, continuing his recording. Something amazing just happened. A security guard named Jack brought me tea. A stranger showing kindness when I needed it most. He said he's been homeless before too. Maybe there's hope after all. That small kindness meant everything that night. Tom recorded Jack's generosity in his diary before falling asleep, the empty cup still warm in his hands. 3 weeks after being fired, Tom was filling out an application at a local cafe when his phone rang, an unknown number. The small cafe on the corner of High Street was warm and smelled of fresh coffee. Tom sat near the window, nursing a single cup of tea that he had made last for over an hour. The manager had been kind enough to let him sit there while he filled out a job application. 3 weeks of living in his car had taken its toll. His clothes were wrinkled despite his best efforts to keep them neat, and he hadn't had a proper shower in days, making do with quick washes in public toilets. Jack, the security guard, had become something of a friend, often bringing Tom tea and leftover sandwiches. Last night, Jack had even let Tom use the staff shower at the back of the store after closing time. These small kindnesses kept Tom going, though his hope was fading with each passing day. Just one more chance, Tom whispered to himself as he carefully filled out the application form for the cafe. The position paid much less than his job at the studio, but at this point, any income would be a blessing. His phone rang suddenly, startling him. The screen showed an unknown number. Tom hesitated before answering. He had received nothing but rejection calls lately. "Hello, is this Tom Walker?" asked a professional-sounding woman. "Yes, speaking," Tom replied, trying to sound confident, despite expecting another rejection. "This is Emma Williams, Mr. Robert James's personal assistant. He's been trying to locate you for weeks." Tom nearly dropped his phone. His heart began racing so fast he could feel it pounding in his ears. The cafe around him seemed to fade away as he focused entirely on the voice coming through his phone. "Me?" "Why?" Tom managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. James only recently discovered you were dismissed for helping him during his medical emergency. He was quite upset about this and would like to meet with you tomorrow. We can send a car if that's convenient." Tom's mind was spinning. Robert James, the famous comedian, was looking for him. It seemed impossible. He looked down at his wrinkled shirt and worn jeans, suddenly very aware of his appearance. "I'm not really presentable at the moment," Tom admitted, embarrassment coloring his voice. Emma's voice softened. "Mr. James specifically said to tell you not to worry about that." "Oh, and have you seen your video diary? It's been viewed over 2 million times online." Tom's mouth fell open. "My what?" he gasped, completely confused. "The video from your car. Someone must have shared it. Mr. James will explain everything tomorrow. 3 o'clock at Starlight Productions?" Tom's mind raced, back to the recordings he had made in his car, his private thoughts, his struggles, his hopes and fears. How could they possibly be online? Who would have shared them? Yes, 3 o'clock works," Tom stammered, still trying to process what Emma was saying. "Wonderful. A car will pick you up. Where shall we send it?" Tom paused. He couldn't exactly give the address of a Tesco parking lot. "I'll be at the Central Library steps at 2:30 if that works." "Perfect. See you tomorrow, Mr. Walker." As Tom hung up, the cafe manager approached his table. "Everything all right, mate? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm not sure," Tom replied honestly. "I think something good might be happening, but I'm afraid to believe it." The manager smiled kindly. "Well, finish your tea, no rush." Tom thanked him and sat back, his job application forgotten. He quickly opened his phone's web browser and typed Tom Walker Video Diary. To his shock, the first result was a YouTube video with over 2 million views titled "Fired for Doing the Right Thing, A Filmmaker's Struggle." With shaking hands, Tom pressed play. There he was, sitting in his car, speaking about being fired, for helping Robert James, about his struggles, his mum, his dreams. The comment section was filled with thousands of supportive messages. Some people were even asking how they could help him. Suddenly he remembered. The night Jack had first brought him tea, Tom had mentioned his video diary recordings. Jack had asked if he could share Tom's story with his daughter, who worked in social media. Tom had nodded, not really thinking much of it at the time. "Jack," Tom whispered, realizing what must have happened. That night, Tom parked in his usual spot, behind Tesco. He couldn't sleep, his mind too full of possibilities. What did Robert James want? Was this really happening, or was it some cruel joke? When Jack came by on his rounds, Tom told him about the call. "That was my Emma who called you," Jack said with a proud smile. "She's my daughter, works for Robert." "James, small world, isn't it?" Tom stared at him in disbelief. "Your daughter is Emma Williams, Robert James's assistant." Jack nodded. "When she showed him your video, with your permission, mind you, he recognized you right away, been looking for you ever since." For the first time in weeks, Tom felt a tiny spark of hope flickering to life inside him. Tomorrow might change. Everything. Or it might be nothing. But at least for tonight he had something to look forward to. Tom arrived at Starlight Productions, his heart pounding. The receptionist led him not to a meeting room, but to a full conference room where Robert James sat with several executives. The Starlight Productions building towered over the London street, all glass and steel reaching toward the sky. Tom stood outside, looking up at it in awe. The taxi that had picked him up from the library steps had brought him here, to one of the biggest production companies in the country. Tom had spent the morning washing his clothes in a launderette and had even splurged on a cheap haircut. Still, he felt out of place as he walked through the fancy doors. The receptionist smiled warmly at him. "Mr. Walker, we've been expecting you. Please follow me." Tom followed her across the marble floor, past walls covered with movie posters. His hands were shaking. What was waiting for him? What did Robert James want? The receptionist stopped at a large door and opened it. Tom expected a small meeting room, but instead found himself looking at a full conference room. A long table filled the space, and around it sat several people in expensive suits. At the head of the table was Robert James himself, looking much healthier than the last time Tom had seen him. "There he is." Robert stood, a big smile on his face. He walked over and extended his hand to Tom. "The man who saved my life and doesn't even know he's famous." Tom shook Robert's hand, completely bewildered. "I don't understand." Robert put a friendly arm around Tom's shoulders and led him to an empty chair. "Please, sit down. We have a lot to talk about." Tom sat, feeling everyone's eyes on him. He recognized some of the people in the room. They were important executives from big film companies. Robert took his place at the head of the table again. "That security guard who gave you tea. His daughter works in social media. He shared your video diary. With your permission, I might add. You mentioned helping me in it." Tom vaguely remembered nodding when Jack had asked if he could share Tom's story. He had been so tired that night, not really thinking about what he was agreeing to. "Your story went viral," Robert continued. "Over 2 million views in just a few days. People were touched by your situation, fired for doing the right thing, and by your passion for film, even in such difficult times." A woman in a sleek suit spoke up. "We've done our research on you, Mr. Walker. We got in touch with your film school and reviewed your portfolio. Your talent is undeniable. Your authentic passion for filmmaking and your kindness despite your circumstances touched millions," explained Robert, "including everyone in this room." Tom looked around the table, still not quite believing this was real. "But why am I here? What is this about?" Robert smiled. "I'm offering you 2 things. a position as creative development assistant at my production company, and funding for your first short film as director. What do you say? Tom's mouth fell open. He tried to speak, but no words came out. Tears filled his eyes and started rolling down his cheeks. After weeks of sleeping in his car, after all the rejections, after thinking his dreams were over, this seemed impossible. I don't know what to say, Tom finally managed. Say yes, Robert laughed, unless you prefer living in your car. Tom wiped away his tears with the back of his hand. My mum always said kindness comes back to you. I never really believed it until now. Well, your mum was right, Robert said. Now, there's someone else who wants to meet you. The door opened, and to Tom's shock, Jack the security guard walked in. Surprised to see me, lad, Jack said with a big grin. Told you good things come around. You knew about all this? Tom asked. Not at first, Jack admitted. But when my Emma told me who she worked for, I put two and two together. The world works in funny ways sometimes. Over the next few hours, Tom signed contracts, met his new team, and even called his mum with the good news. For the first time, in weeks he felt hope, real hope, not just for himself but for his future in film. 1 year later, Tom stood on the stage at the London Film Festival, accepting the Best Short Film Award for his directorial debut. In the front row sat his mum, healthy and proud, thanks to the better medical care she now received. Next to her were Robert James and Jack. Tom looked out at the audience, microphone in hand. A year ago, I was living in my car, thinking my dreams were over. I had been fired for helping someone in need, and I thought life was punishing me for doing the right thing. He paused, looking at the award in his hands. But then something amazing happened. The kindness I had shown came back to me through people who saw value in me when I couldn't see it myself. Tom thanked Robert, Jack, and everyone who had believed in second chances. As he finished his speech, he looked directly at the camera. Sometimes, Tom concluded, your darkest moment comes right before the dawn of your greatest opportunity. Don't give up. Your time will come. That night, as Tom celebrated with his new friends and colleagues, his phone buzzed with a message. It was from Peter, his old colleague who had gotten him fired. Saw you on TV. Congratulations, I was wrong about you. Tom smiled and put his phone away without replying. Some chapters were better left closed. He had a new story to write now, his own.